In the hallowed halls of Olympus, where the ambrosia flows freely and the mortals look up with awe, or rather in abject terror, we find none other than Zeus himself, reclining on his thunderous couch. Yet beneath this towering figure of myth and might, I suspect we may unearth a psyche teeming with unresolved complexes and pathological self-regard. If only he would have graced the Viennese couch of Sigmund Freud with his presence, we might have unraveled the Gordian knot of his neuroses. Though I must admit I'd keep one eye on the door lest Hera storm in. Alas, we are left to analyze from afar. In my day, we had the concept of the Übermensch. But Zeus presents us with something far grander, an Über-Narcissist. His grandiosity knows no bounds, a sky-high ego towering above even the heavens. Let us consider his self-styled supremacy. With a flick of his wrist, he dispenses cosmic judgments, his every whim an edict, his desires the fabric of reality itself. Ah, the Titanomachy, a war to end all wars, or at least to secure Zeus's place atop the celestial food chain. In vanquishing the Titans, he does not merely assert dominance, he becomes dominance incarnate. And of course, what better way to flaunt one's superiority than by claiming the prime real estate of the cosmos, leaving the underworld to his less-than-stellar sibling, Hades? This is not simply a division of spoils. It is the very essence of grandiose delusion. I am the sky, and all who look up must tremble at my power. Zeus, in his relentless pursuit of pleasure, reveals a textbook case of exploitative relationships. He is, after all, the ultimate Casanova, transforming into whatever form is necessary to quench his insatiable desires. From swan to bull to golden shower, oh how we Freudians might relish the implications of that last one. Zeus's amorous exploits are nothing if not an exercise in self-gratification. Take, for instance, his encounter with Leda. The transformation into a swan is not merely a tactical maneuver, it is an expression of his omnipotent fantasy. I am whatever I wish to be, and I shall have whatever I wish to possess. Leda, in this scenario, is but a vessel for Zeus's boundless ego, her autonomy erased beneath the overwhelming shadow of his desires. In another epoch, we might diagnose this as a case of pathological objectification, but on Olympus, it's just another Tuesday. Empathy, that most human of traits, appears conspicuously absent in our divine subject. Zeus wields power not with the gentle touch of a healer, but with the brutal force of a torturer. Consider Prometheus, the fire-bringer, chained to a rock for eternity, his liver pecked at by an eagle repeatedly. What does this punishment reveal but a sadistic streak born of wounded pride? Zeus's reaction to Prometheus's defiance is more than a simple assertion of authority. It is the retaliatory strike of a narcissist scorned. The suffering of Prometheus is of no consequence to him. What matters is that his will was defied, and such insolence must be met with the harshest of retributions. In this light we see Zeus not as a benevolent ruler, but as a cosmic schoolyard bully, lashing out at those who dare challenge his perceived omnipotence. Here we must turn our attention to one of the more peculiar episodes in Zeus's storied history, his devouring of Metis, his first wife, pregnant with a child prophesied to surpass him. What we have here is not just envy, but the fear of inevitable dethronement, a fear that drives him to, quite literally, consume the competition before it can emerge. Swallowing Metis whole to prevent the birth of a potential rival, Zeus reveals the full extent of his control complex. It is as if he believes that by ingesting his problems, he can internalize and dominate them. Yet, as Athena springs forth from his forehead, we see the ultimate irony. Even the gods cannot fully control fate. Athena's birth, fully armed and ready for battle, might be seen as the ultimate manifestation of Zeus's repressed anxieties, an internal conflict born in literal form. Poor Hera. If only she could join me in a session or two, we might work through some of the rage she harbors. Married to the ultimate narcissist, she is locked in a toxic dance of jealousy, revenge, and helplessness. Hera's infamous vengefulness, often dismissed as petty or cruel, is, I would argue, a response to the continuous narcissistic injury she endures. She is, after all, the eternal patient, caught in a never-ending loop of betrayal and rage, her psyche battered by Zeus's relentless infidelities. In this light, Hera's actions take on a new dimension. They are not merely the outbursts of a scorned woman, but the desperate attempts of a psyche struggling to assert control in a world where she is constantly undermined by her husband's grandiosity and exploitation. If only she could take the metaphorical knife to Zeus's ego, and perhaps the literal one to his bedchambers, she might find some semblance of peace. Were Zeus to walk among us today, I have no doubt that his behaviors would make the tabloids, not to mention the DSM-5. Grandiosity, a lack of empathy, exploitative relationships, envy and control, these are the hallmarks of narcissistic personality disorder, dressed up in the toga of divinity. His exploits would not be seen as divine acts, but as the dangerous liaisons of a pathological egoist. Perhaps Zeus, with his thunderbolts and shape-shifting seductions, would find himself not in the halls of Olympus, but in the sterile confines of a psychiatric ward, or more likely, a court of law. His mythological status would do little to shield him from the #MeToo movement, where his exploits might be recast as abuses of power rather than the whims of a god. In the end, Zeus offers us a fascinating case study, a mirror, if you will, reflecting the darker aspects of the human and divine psyche. Through the lens of narcissism, we gain new insight into the dynamics of power, control, and the inevitable downfall that comes from unchecked grandiosity. Zeus, the king of the gods, stands as a cautionary tale for all who seek to rule, not with wisdom and compassion, but with the iron fist of narcissistic dominance. And so, I leave you with this final thought. Even the gods are not immune to the complexities of the psyche. Whether on Olympus or in our own world, the shadow of narcissism looms large, a reminder that power without empathy is but a thunderbolt waiting to strike.